The year was 2157, and humanity stood at the edge of something wonderful. After centuries of looking up at the stars and wondering if they were alone, humans finally had their answer. They were not alone. The galaxy was full of life, full of civilizations, full of wonders beyond imagination. Admiral Kang Tae-woo stood on the observation deck of the orbital defense station called Horizon. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes that had seen too many battles. But today, those eyes were filled with hope. Through the massive windows, he could see Earth below, blue and green and beautiful. And beyond Earth, he could see the ships of the Galactic Union arriving for the ceremony. Tomorrow, humanity would officially join the Union. They would become the 848th member species. They would finally have a place among the stars. The Galactic Union was old. It had existed for over 100,000 years, bringing together hundreds of alien civilizations under one banner of peace and trade. The Valari, an ancient species with silver skin and 4 arms, had made first contact with humans just 10 years ago. They had looked at humanity the way a grown person might look at a child taking their first steps. There was curiosity there, but also something else. Something like pity. Primitive, they had called humans. Young, promising, perhaps, but so very far behind. Admiral Kang did not like being called primitive, but he kept his feelings hidden. Politics required patience. And tomorrow, everything would change. He never got to see tomorrow. It started as a shimmer in the space between Earth and Mars, a ripple, like someone had dropped a stone into the fabric of reality itself. Admiral Kang saw it first on the sensors, then with his own eyes. A growing tear in space, spreading faster than anything should be able to spread. "What is that?" he whispered. No one could answer him. The tear became a wave. The wave became a wall, and the wall swallowed everything. In less than 3 minutes, the entire solar system vanished. Earth, the Moon, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and everything else within Neptune's orbit simply ceased to exist in normal space. The Valari ships that had come for the ceremony barely escaped, jumping to faster-than-light speed just before the anomaly touched them. They called it the Fold. The Galactic Union sent ships to investigate. They found nothing. Debris. No energy signatures. No explanation. Just empty space where a star and its planets used to be. Emergency meetings were held. Scientists from 1,000 worlds offered theories. Religious leaders spoke of divine punishment. Politicians argued about what it meant for galactic stability. But in the end, they all reached the same conclusion. Earth was gone. Humanity was dead. Another young species lost to the cruel randomness of the universe. They closed humanity's file. They archived the records. Within a century, most species had forgotten that humans ever existed at all. But Earth had not been destroyed. Admiral Kang Tae-woo woke up on the floor of the observation deck, his head pounding with pain. Emergency lights flashed red all around him. Through the windows, he could still see Earth. He could still see the moon, but the stars were wrong. The familiar constellations were gone, replaced by a strange purple haze that seemed to stretch forever in all directions. "Report," he croaked, pulling himself to his feet. The news was confusing and terrifying. They were no longer in normal space. Somehow, the entire solar system had been transported somewhere else. Somewhere that should not exist. Dr. Yoon Hannah was the first to understand what had happened. She was a quantum physicist, small and quiet, with glasses that always seemed to be sliding down her nose. She had spent her entire career studying the theoretical possibilities of dimensional travel. Now, she was living inside one of those theories. "We are in a pocket dimension," she explained to the Emergency Council 3 days later. "A bubble of space-time that exists outside the normal universe. Time moves differently here. Based on my calculations, for every year that passes in normal space, only 1 day passes for us." The room fell silent as everyone processed this information. "So if we are here for 1 year," Admiral Kang said slowly, 365 years will pass outside." Dr. Yoon nodded. "Approximately, yes. Can we get back?" "I do not know yet, but I will find out." The first months were hard. Panic spread across Earth and the Mars colonies. Governments blamed each other. Riots broke out. Resources became scarce. It seemed like humanity might destroy itself before it ever had a chance to return home. But then something remarkable happened. Dr. Yoon Hannah made a broadcast. It was simple. It was short. And it changed everything. "We have been given time," she said, her voice calm and clear. "While the universe ages around us, we remain young. We can use this. We can learn. We can grow. We can become something greater than we ever imagined. When we return, and we will return, we will not be the primitive species the galaxy dismissed. We will be their equals, perhaps more." She paused and looked directly into the camera. "We have been given time. Let us use it wisely." Something shifted in the human spirit that day. The fear remained, but it was joined by something else: determination, hope, a fierce refusal to let this strange prison become a grave. Admiral Kung Tae-woo watched the broadcast with tears in his eyes. He had served humanity his entire life. He had fought wars. He had lost friends. He had seen the best and worst of his species, and now, for the first time, he believed they might actually be capable of miracles. He straightened his uniform, wiped his eyes, and walked to the command center. There was work to do. Humanity had been given an impossible gift, wrapped in tragedy. They would not waste it. Outside the station, purple haze of the fold swirled endlessly. Inside, 9 billion humans began the long journey toward a future no one could have predicted. The galaxy had forgotten them. It would not forget them again. The first year inside the fold was chaos. The second year was construction. By the third year, humanity had become something new. General Park Sung-ho was a soldier who had never wanted to be a politician. He was rough and direct, with scars on his hands from decades of service. But when the old governments fell apart in the panic following the vanishing, someone needed to step forward. Someone needed to unite the scattered human colonies before they tore themselves apart. He did not ask for the job. He simply started doing it. Within 12 months, the Terran Confederacy was born. It was not perfect. It was not always fair, but it was unified. For the first time in human history, every nation, every colony, every station spoke with one voice. Resources were shared. Scientists worked together. Soldiers stopped pointing guns at each other and started pointing them at the unknown. General Park gave a speech on the anniversary of the vanishing. He stood before the cameras with his uniform wrinkled and his hair uncombed. "We are alone," he said simply. "No one is coming to save us. No one cares if we live or die. So we will save ourselves. We will care for each other. And we will survive. Because that is what humans do." The words were not beautiful, but they were true. And sometimes truth matters more than beauty. Chief Engineer Baek-jun was the kind of man who talked to machines more than people. He was awkward in conversations and terrible at parties. But give him a broken engine, and he would make it sing. Give him an impossible problem, and he would solve it before breakfast. The strange physics of the fold gave him problems that should have been impossible. Normal rules did not apply in this pocket dimension. Energy behaved differently. Matter could be shaped in new ways. The laws that had limited human technology for centuries suddenly had exceptions. Baek-jun and his team worked without rest. They failed 1,000 times. They succeeded 1,001. By the end of the second year, they had unlocked zero-point energy. This was power drawn from the fabric of space itself, unlimited and clean. No more burning fuel. No more fighting over resources. Every human settlement suddenly had all the energy it would ever need. By the third year, they had perfected molecular fabrication. Machines that could build anything atom by atom. Food could be created from raw matter. Medicine could be produced in minutes. Poverty became a memory. Hunger became a story told to children. By the fourth year, they had developed neural integration. Humans could connect their minds directly to computers. Knowledge could be shared instantly. Skills could be learned in hours instead of years. A farmer could become an engineer. A student could become a doctor. The barriers between people began to dissolve. By the 5th year, they had built the spatial compression drive. Ships that could fold space around themselves, traveling distances that would take centuries in mere hours. The solar system, once their prison, became their playground. Professor Imnari watched all of this with growing unease. She was a xenobiologist who had spent years studying alien cultures before the vanishing. She had read their histories. She had learned their languages. She understood them in ways most humans did not, and she understood something troubling. The Galactic Union has not changed in over 100,000 years, she told Dr. Yoon Hana one evening. They sat in Hannah's small office, surrounded by screens filled with equations. Their technology is ancient. Their societies are frozen. They reached what they believed was the peak, and they simply stopped climbing. Dr. Yoon looked at her data and frowned. You are saying they stagnated? Yes, they have ships that can cross the galaxy, but those ships are the same as they were 50,000 years ago. They have weapons that can destroy planets, but those weapons have not improved in millennia. They believe they have discovered everything worth discovering. Alas. Professor Imes smiled, but there was no happiness in it. We have done more in 5 years than they have done in 100,000. When we return, we will not be the primitives they remember. We will be something they have never seen before. Dr. Yoon Hana thought about this for a long time. Will they welcome us? She finally asked. Some will. Others will fear us. And fear makes people do terrible things. Captain Odesu was 40 years old when the vanishing happened. He spent the next 8 years becoming the finest ship commander humanity had ever produced. When the new fleet was ready, when the massive vessels, with their impossible technology, were complete, he was chosen to lead them. The flagship was called Eternal Dawn. It was 3 kilometers long, covered in shields that could survive the heart of a star. Its weapons could crack moons. Its engines could outrun light itself. Captain O stood on the bridge and looked at his crew. They were young and old, men and women, from every corner of Earth. They were afraid. They were excited. They were ready. We have been preparing for this moment for 8 years, he said quietly. Outside, 3,000 years have passed. Everyone we knew is gone. The world we left behind has forgotten us completely. But we have not forgotten ourselves. We know who we are. We know what we can do. He turned to face the main screen, where the swirling purple of the fold waited. Dr. Yoon has opened the door. Now we walk through it. Stay calm, stay focused, and remember why we are doing this. We are not here to conquer. We are not here to destroy. We are here to show the galaxy that humanity survives, that humanity endures, that humanity is coming home. Dr. Yoon Hana, now old and gray, but still sharp as a blade, sat in her laboratory and pressed the final command. Reality cracked, the fold opened, and stepped back into a universe that had long since stopped expecting miracles. Behind them, the pocket dimension collapsed into nothing, as if it had never existed at all. Before them, the familiar stars of the Milky Way burned bright and welcoming. They were home. Now they just had to see what home had become. Commander Velith had been patrolling the empty region of space called Sol System for 30 years. It was a boring assignment. Nothing ever happened here. Nothing had happened here for 3,000 years. Not since the strange anomaly had swallowed the primitive species called humans. The Valari gave this assignment to officers who had disappointed their superiors. It was a punishment disguised as duty. Velith had made the mistake of questioning a senior admiral's strategy during a war game. Now he spent his days watching empty space and counting the years until retirement. He was drinking hot tea and reviewing supply reports. When the alarm started screaming, "Commander," his sensor officer said, her voice shaking, "Something is happening." Velith looked at the main screen and dropped his tea. The cup shattered on the floor, but he did not notice. Space itself was tearing open. A wound in reality, growing larger with each passing second. Purple light spilled through the gap, and through that light came shapes. Ships. Hundreds of ships. Ships larger than anything Velith had ever seen. Larger than anything in the Galactic Union's fleet. And behind the ships, impossibly, came a planet. Blue oceans. Green continents. White clouds swirling over its surface. Earth had returned. Velith tried to send a message to Union Command. Psst. But his communication systems were not working properly. The energy coming from those ships was interfering with everything. His weapons were offline. His engines were barely functioning. He could only watch as the human fleet arranged itself in perfect formation around their homeworld. One of the ships, the largest one, turned toward his vessel. Velith felt his hearts pounding in his chest. He had 4 hearts, and all of them were racing. A communication signal came through. A human face appeared on his screen. It was a male, older, with calm eyes and gray hair. "This is Captain Odasiu of the Terran Confederacy vessel, Eternal Dawn," the human said. "We have returned home after a long absence. We mean you no harm. Please inform the Galactic Union that humanity requests a meeting to discuss our place in the galaxy." Velith could not find his voice. He simply nodded. The human smiled. It was a strange expression. The Valari did not smile. "Thank you, Commander." "We will wait for their response." The communication ended. Velith sat in silence for a long moment. Then he began writing the most important report of his life. The news spread across the galaxy faster than light. Itself could travel. The humans had returned. On 1,000 worlds. Leaders and generals and scientists tried to understand what this meant. The files were pulled from ancient archives. The records were reviewed. And everyone asked the same questions. How had they survived? Where had they been? And what had they become? Emergency sessions were called in the Galactic Union Council. Representatives from all 847 member species gathered in the Great Chamber on the capital world. The room was vast, designed to hold thousands, and today every seat was filled. Ambassador Choi Yuna walked into that chamber alone. She was young for a diplomat, only 35 years old. She had been born inside the fold, raised on stories of a galaxy that had forgotten her people. She had trained her entire life for this moment, learning dozens of alien languages. Studying thousands of years of galactic history, she was not afraid. 847 species watched her walk to the central platform. Some looked curious. Some looked hostile. Many looked afraid, though they tried to hide it. Ambassador Choi bowed respectfully to the assembled representatives. "I bring greetings from Earth," she said. Her voice was clear and steady, translated instantly into hundreds of languages by the Chamber's systems. "We thank the Council for receiving us." The Valari High Speaker leaned forward. "You vanished 3,000 years ago. We assumed your species had perished. How did you survive?" "We were transported to a pocket dimension by an anomaly we now call the Fold. Time moved differently there. What was 3,000 years for you was only 8 years for us." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. 8 years, the High Speaker repeated. "And in that time, we did what humans do," Ambassador Choi said simply. "We adapted. We grew. We prepared." Prepared for what? For this conversation, the Corvin representative stood. The Corvin were a warrior species, proud and aggressive. They had built an empire through conquest, and they did not like surprises. "We have seen your ships," the Corvan said. His voice was deep and filled with contempt. Impressive toys for a young species. "But toys cannot change your place in the universe. You vanished as infants. You return as what? Children with new tools?" Ambassador Choi met his eyes without flinching. "We return as equals." "Equals?" The Corvan laughed. It was an ugly sound. "You know nothing of the galaxy. You have no allies, no trade relationships, no history. You have been gone for 3,000 years. Everything has changed. Then we will learn." "You will kneel," the Corvan said, "or you will burn. Those are your choices." The Corvin hegemony does not recognize primitives as equals. The chamber fell silent. This was a direct threat. War had been declared in these chambers before, overless Ambassador Choi Yuna smiled. It was a small smile, polite and cold. Humanity does not kneel, she said softly. We never have. We never will. If the Corvin hegemony wishes to test this, they are welcome to try. But I would advise against it. Is that a threat? It is a fact. The Corvin ambassador turned to the council. You see, they are arrogant and dangerous. They must be contained before they spread their infection through the galaxy. He looked back at Ambassador Choi. The hegemony declares war on Earth. You will regret your pride. Human. Ambassador Choi bowed again, as calm as if she had been discussing the weather. We will see, she said. We will see. She turned and walked out of the chamber. Behind her, chaos erupted as representatives shouted and argued and tried to understand what had just happened. The first war of the New Age had begun, and humanity was ready. The Corvin Grand Fleet was the most feared military force in the galaxy. 12,000 warships, each one crewed by the finest warriors the hegemony could produce. They had conquered 30 star systems. They had destroyed entire civilizations. No species had ever defeated them in open battle. Their supreme commander, a massive Corvin warrior covered in ritual scars, led the fleet personally. He wanted to witness humanity's destruction with his own eyes. He wanted to be the one who burned their blue world to ash. All ships, prepare for combat, he ordered. Today we remind the galaxy why the Corvin rule. The fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sol system. Before them, Earth hung in space, protected by a ring of human vessels. The Supreme Commander counted them. Less than 500 ships? He smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. Pathetic, he said. Forward, all ships. Leave nothing alive. Admiral Kong Tae-woo watched the Corvin fleet approach on his tactical display. He was old now, over 80 years standard, but his mind was still sharp. He had spent 8 years in the fold, preparing for this moment. He had trained. He had planned. He had imagined every possible scenario. This was not even one of the difficult ones. All ships, he said calmly, engage at will. The human fleet moved out to the Corvin. It looked like magic. One moment, the human ships were in formation around Earth. The next moment, they were everywhere. They appeared and disappeared without warning. Their spatial compression drives letting them jump short distances almost instantly. The Corvin weapons fired at empty space. Their shields blocked attacks that never came. And then the human. Weapons-activated gravity beams reached out and crushed Corvin vessels like paper. Energy weapons cut through their shields as if they did not exist. Missiles that could not be tracked, could not be stopped. Detonated inside Corvin ships without ever touching their hulls. The Supreme Commander watched his fleet die. Impossible, he whispered. This is impossible. 100 Corvin ships destroyed in the first minute. 500 in the second. By the 5th minute, panic had spread through the entire fleet. Ships tried to retreat, but the humans followed them. Appearing in their path, cutting off their escape, the battle lasted 17 minutes. When it was over, the Corvin Grand Fleet existed only as debris floating through space. 12,000 ships, reduced to scrap metal and frozen bodies. The humans had not lost a single vessel. Admiral Kong Tae-woo looked at the destruction and felt no joy. War was never something to celebrate. But it was sometimes necessary. Open a channel to the Corvin homeworld, he ordered. A terrified Corvin official appeared on screen. Your fleet is destroyed, Admiral Kong said simply. Your Supreme Commander is dead. You may surrender now, or we can continue this war. The choice is yours. The surrender came within the hour. The galaxy watched in stunned silence. Recordings of the battle spread across every world, every station, every ship with a communication system. Species who had never heard of humans now knew their name. Species who had dismissed them as primitives now understood their mistake. Supreme. Chancellor Beho-jin addressed the Galactic Union 3 days after the battle. He was a civilian leader, elected by the people of Earth to speak for them all. He had gray hair and kind eyes, but his voice carried the weight of 9 billion souls. "We did not want this war," he said. "We came in peace. We asked only for recognition and respect." The Corvan hegemony responded with threats and violence. They believed we were weak because we were young. They were wrong. He paused and looked directly into the cameras. "Let this serve as notice to every civilization in the galaxy. Humanity is not a threat to those who treat us fairly. We wish to trade, to learn, to grow alongside you. We have technologies that could benefit everyone. We have knowledge to share and knowledge to gain." His expression hardened. "But we will not be bullied. We will not be dismissed. We will not be attacked without consequence." The Corvan learned this lesson the hard way. We hope no one else needs to learn it the same way. 3 civilizations sent alliance requests to Earth that same day. 47 others began private negotiations. The old order of the galaxy, stable for thousands of years, had been shattered in 17 minutes. But not everyone wanted peace. Director Shin, Minji, ran the Terran Intelligence Service. She was small and plain-looking, the kind of person who disappeared in crowds. This made her very good at her job. She collected secrets the way some people collected art, and she had discovered a terrible secret. Fold was not natural, she told Chancellor Bay in a secure room deep beneath New Soul. It was created. Someone sent us to that pocket dimension on purpose. The Chancellor's face went pale. Who? They call themselves the Void Collective. A secret alliance of ancient species who have been manipulating the galaxy for over 1,000,000 years. They identify young civilizations that are evolving too quickly, civilizations that might one day challenge their power, and they eliminate them. Yes, they have done it hundreds of times, maybe thousands. They have a weapon called the Silence. It collapses entire star systems into nothing. No survivors. No evidence. Chancellor Bay sat down heavily. We were supposed to die in the Fold. Yes, but we escaped. And now they know we escaped. Director Shin placed a data chip on the table. Our agents have intercepted their communications. They are preparing to use the Silence on Earth. They are afraid of us, Chancellor. More afraid than they have been of any species in 100,000 years. How long do we have? Weeks, maybe less. Chancellor Bay closed his eyes. They had won one war only to discover a greater enemy waiting in the shadows. An enemy that had been planning humanity's extinction since before they were born. He opened his eyes and straightened his shoulders. Then we have work to do, he said. Call the council. Call the military. Call everyone. He looked at Director Shin with determination burning in his eyes. If they want to silence humanity, they will have to work for it. And they will fail. The real war was about to begin. The Void Collective's weapon floated at the edge of the galaxy, hidden in a region of space so dark that no light had touched it in 1,000,000,000 years. It was called the Silence, and it was as old as the stars themselves. A machine designed to erase entire solar systems from existence. It had been used before. Many times. Young species who grew too fast, who asked too many questions, who threatened the careful order of the galaxy, they had all been silenced. Their worlds collapsed into points of infinite darkness, leaving nothing behind. Now it was aimed at Earth. Lieutenant. Commander Yoon Swa looked at the briefing materials one more time. She was Dr. Yoon Hana's granddaughter, born inside the Fold, trained since childhood for moments exactly like this. She had her grandmother's sharp mind and her grandfather's steady hands. Her mission was simple to describe and almost impossible to achieve. Take a team of 12 soldiers to the Collective's hidden station. Find the Silence. Destroy it before it could fire. The station is defended by forces we cannot fully estimate, Director Shin Mengi explained. You will be outnumbered. You will be outgunned. The odds of survival are very low. Swa nodded. I understand. Do you have any questions? Just one. Swa looked at the director with calm eyes. When do we leave? They left that night. Meanwhile, Fleet Admiral Odesu gathered the largest human armada ever assembled. 5,000 ships, every vessel Earth could spare. They would engage the Collective's forces directly, drawing attention away from Swa's mission. This is not a battle we expect to win easily, Odesu told his captains. The collective has allies. They have ships. They have had 1,000,000 years to prepare. But we have something they do not. What is that, Admiral? A young captain asked. Odesu smiled. We have nothing to lose. They are fighting to protect their power. We are fighting to survive. That makes all the difference. The fleet jumped to faster than light speed. Heading toward the edge of the galaxy, the battle began in darkness. Collective ships emerged from hidden positions, surrounding the human fleet. They were old designs, ancient but still deadly, and there were many of them. For every ship humanity had brought, the collective had 3. Admiral Odesu gave his orders calmly. Human vessels began their deadly dance, appearing and disappearing, striking and retreating. Space burned with weapons fire. Ships died on both sides. It was not enough. Admiral, we are taking heavy losses, his tactical officer reported. They just keep coming. Hold the line. Give Swa's team time. Inside the collective station, Lieutenant Commander Yun Swa fought through corridors that had not seen intruders in 100,000 years. Her team moved like ghosts, silent and deadly. But the station knew they were coming. Sergeant Han Quan fell first, holding a corridor so the others could advance. He killed 30 enemies before they brought him down. His last words were a simple command to keep moving. Specialist Jung Bora fell at the second checkpoint. Her rifle empty, using her bare hands against creatures 3 times her size. She laughed as she fought. One by one, Swa's team died around her. Each sacrifice bought the others a few more steps, a few more minutes. When she reached the final door, only Swa remained. Beyond that door was the silence. And beyond the silence stood a being older than human civilization itself. The first had no body in the traditional sense. It was a presence, a consciousness spread across machines and screens and the very walls of the station. When it spoke, its voice came from everywhere. You cannot stop what is coming, the first said. Your species is a virus. You adapt. You overcome. You consume. In 10,000 years, you will rule everything. We have seen it in the calculations. Swa planted her explosive charges as she listened. Her hands were steady. Then why fight us at all? Because you are not gods yet, and we can still kill you. The silence began to power up. Through the station's windows, Swa could see the distant glow of the human fleet, still fighting, still dying. You are too late, the first said. In moments, your world will cease to exist. Your species will join all the others we have silenced. Swa finished planting the charges. She was bleeding from a dozen wounds. Her armor was cracked. She had maybe 5 minutes to live, even without the explosion. She activated her communication system. The signal was weak, but it would reach the fleet. Tell the galaxy, she whispered, that humanity says hello. She pressed the detonation trigger. The explosion consumed everything. The silence, the station, the first, and every collective ship within 1,000 kilometers. A new star was born, for a brief moment, burning bright in the endless dark. Lieutenant Commander Yun Swa died instantly. She felt no pain. In the space beyond, the collective forces faltered. Their command structure had been destroyed. Their ancient weapon was gone. Their leader, who had guided them for 1,000,000 years, was dead. The human fleet pressed their advantage. Ships that had been retreating now advanced. The tide of battle turned. Within hours it was over. The collective scattered. Their member species surrendering or fleeing to the far edges of the galaxy Earth had survived. 1 year later, Chancellor Beihojin stood before the Galactic Union Council. The chamber was full, but the mood was different now. There was no contempt in the faces watching him. There was respect. 3,000 years ago, you forgot us, he said. Today you will remember. We are humanity. We do not bow. We do not break. We do not vanish. And we are just getting started. The council voted unanimously to grant Earth a permanent seat. Dr. Yoon Hana watched the ceremony from her home in Busan. She was 87 years old now, tired but satisfied. Through her window, She could see the statue they had built for her granddaughter. Swa's sacrifice was honored across 1,000 worlds. A young aide approached her. "Doctor, the council wants to discuss the fold research," Anna laughed softly. They feared it once. Now, they want to understand it. Can you blame them? The old woman looked up at the stars. "No," she said. "I suppose I cannot." She rose slowly, her bones aching but her spirit unbroken. "Tell them I am coming. Humanity has work to do." Outside, the stars burned bright, and among them, humanity took its rightful place. They had been lost in the dark. They had built their own light. And when they returned, the galaxy learned to fear the dawn. The story of Earth's disappearance had ended. The story of humanity's future had just begun.